It's the one, the only, Gareth Southgate.
Hi, Jeff.
How are you this morning?
Very good, thank you. Well, I mean, I think for any England supporter, winning the World Cup, it has to be the greatest moment. I mean, in my lifetime, I guess Italia '90 when they made the semi-final, that's the best run that they've had. And then on a personal level, to play in a World Cup for England was a great honour.
I was going to say that. I mean, because it was France 1998 when you played for England in a World Cup. What is it like playing in a World Cup? Because we see players talking about it in the press and stuff, and we hear these stories, but I've never been able to actually speak to an England international who's been there at the World Cup. What is so special about the World Cup?
Well, for a start, it's the one tournament. It's quite possibly the biggest sporting event in the world, along with the Olympics. And it's just the culmination of the dream that you have as a kid, really, to play for your country. It's the pinnacle for any player to play in a World Cup, and you all grow up watching it, and then to be able to be a part of it, and then to realise how huge it is because of the worldwide coverage and the expectations of every country and the footsteps of so many famous players that you follow in. So, very, very special, proud feeling.
Do you know what it's like back home when you're at the training camp and while you're playing the games? Because the country even the people who aren't into football get into football. It's just one of those strange phenomenons that happen. The whole country unites, and are you aware of it all happening?
Well, you have an inkling because you know obviously you're speaking to people at home and they're telling you stories about what's going on. But you know, I've been here for a couple of the tournaments and seen when the team have started to do well, and you don't fully appreciate when you're locked away in a hotel in the middle of nowhere exactly the depth of feeling at home, and especially as the team progresses, which we hope they will this year to the latter stages, then you know the excitement's incredible, and as you say, people that would never normally watch football are suddenly drawn to their television sets.
Yeah, everyone goes mad. People just forget that there's another world out there. It just becomes football, and the focus is on that. No one cares about going to work. In fact, the amount of people who must lose their jobs during the World Cup, there must be some unbelievable stats, because people do just go crazy.
Well, actually, I think and I hope that what happens is that it's actually good for the economy, and I think people feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing the impact that you can have as a football team on a country.
I've got to ask you about this, Gareth, because there's a possibility it will happen again, the dreaded penalties. And, of course, you had your experience back in 1996 at Euro 96. I mean, how that just must have been... It wasn't a case of everyone sort of going, oh, Gareth, you've missed it. It was people felt really sorry for you because you could see how broken-hearted you were. How did you feel that moment when you missed that penalty?
Well, it's within sport, it's one of the most difficult moments you could ever wish to be involved in, you know, because I had the opportunity to get our country into a final, and you know that burden lived on. You know,
you're not going to cry, are you, Gareth, on me?
No. You know, the one thing that you understand when you've been through it is that I was lucky that my most difficult moments in life up to now have been on a football field, and there are people with far greater and more serious problems, but nevertheless, within football, it was a very difficult situation to have to deal with.
But at the same time, Gareth, I mean, you were so brave to actually stand up and take that penalty. You know, it's one of them that I don't think I could have done it. And you know, there weren't a queue of players ahead of you rushing to take that penalty. So fair play for you for going up there and doing it. And it happens. It's just proved it with England. There just seems to be some sort of curse that's on us when it comes to penalties, doesn't it? We just can't seem to overcome them.
Well, I think. Look, I mean that year, actually, the guys that were the regular penalty takers, they scored all 5 against Spain to get to the quarterfinals, and in that game they scored the first 5 penalties as well. So the stats that year weren't as horrific as people might think. Yeah. But obviously since then, you know, it's become a bit of a recurring theme. So somehow the whole country has to believe it. You know, we'll probably have to win one to get to the final or to win it, and you know, the lads have got to have the belief that they'll practice intensely now, because I think it's something that's taken a lot more. I don't say it wasn't taken as seriously, but we know a lot more about the art of taking a penalty now. There's been a lot more research into it, and people will have strategies in place. So
yeah, it's all scientific, isn't it, these days?
Well, I don't think it's as scientific as the scientists would like to make us believe, but you've basically got to trust your technique and have the bottle to get up there and be able to execute that technique under extreme pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say, so if it does happen, what would your advice be then? Because you've been through it, you've scored penalties, you've missed penalties, you've played in the World Cup, you've played in the European Championships. What would your advice be if penalties happen?
Well, when I was a manager at Middlesbrough, we had 2 shootouts and we won them both. And I think if you listen to regular penalty takers, they say that they do not change their mind when they're walking up. You know, they have a clear picture in their mind of what they're going to do. They hit it with pace, and you know, you have a better chance of executing that technique if you don't change your mind throughout the process. So
don't change your mind, stay focused, and and score the thing.
Exactly.
Can we win the World Cup? Can England do it?
Yes, we can. You know, I think everybody's a bit more realistic this year. We know that we're going to have to play to the very best of our ability to do it, but we've got some players in our squad that are feared by other teams, and it's all about, you know, progressing steadily through the group and then improving with each game and with each challenge.
Okay, well, Gareth, thanks for coming on the show this morning. Thanks for the penalty advice, and all the best. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that we ever speak again, it'll be when England are 2-time World Cup winners.
Brilliant.
Take
Cheers,
care,
Jeff.
Gareth Southgate.